I'm so excited about Chloe being here. I can't even begin to tell you. So, Chloe, thank you so much for taking time today to be able to talk to me on a lovely Sunday afternoon. I want to start off with asking the obvious because I ask all my guests this. We've been living through a hell of a time the last 2 years.
Mm.
You're in LA right now. I know things have been a little rough there. So tell me a bit about how things are now, not just in the industry, but how have you managed to just not go insane during these last 2.5 years?
I was so lucky in that we shot my movie. We wrapped shooting, except for one scene, one shot actually. We wrapped shooting 2 weeks before lockdown. I was very lucky, and that so we were able to obviously work on the edit still during lockdown, which was great for the editor. I mean, obviously he's in a room by himself. There's no no need to social distance,
Right.
and he just sent me the footage. That kept me sane. And then I also did a lot of writing. But yeah, I realized how much of a social person I am during that time, and I need human contact. It was the worst period. So yeah, so I concentrated on writing. We got this film edited during that time, and that was kind of what kept me sane. Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you because I know that you have a significant other, meaning your husband at home. There are a lot of couples that have said, well, we learned how much we loved each other during this time. Because when you're so together so often, you know what I mean? Sometimes that can be a bit challenging. So, how did
Yeah.
that go? I mean, as far as at
Oh,
home?
we were actually very lucky. We kind of only had 1 week like that. And then my husband's boss, because he works as a personal injury lawyer, he kind of
Okay.
was essential. So he went back to his work. It was just him and his boss in one office. They saw their clients on Zoom. So yeah, so I kind of didn't have that problem, because I did hear that, yes, some people came closer together. There were apparently a lot of pregnancies, but there were also apparently a lot of divorces. We thankfully didn't have to, go through that.
Oh, you betcha. Now, I got fortunate in that my partner was in industry. So he kind of understood my job and I understood his job. But in your retrospect, you've got an attorney that you're married to. So he's not industry. So how does he deal with all of this? Because sometimes for a
Well,
non-industry person, it's a lot.
that's a very good question. Actually, he's ex-industry, I should say. He used to be an agent. He used to work for
Okay.
CAA, and that, which is great because he gets it. So, I mean, often I have friends saying to me, "How can your husband deal with you kissing another man and stuff?" And it's actually great because my husband is cool with that because he worked in the industry, so he knows. He totally gets it. So yeah, so thank God for that. Yeah, so he's not in the industry anymore, but yes, he was for quite a while. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Now, most people recognize you as an actor. So what I want to ask is that at what point in time did you realize that you wanted to be an actor? Where did that spark come from?
From when I was old enough to work out that people in films were acting and weren't real. So from when I was about 4 or 5, I've always wanted. I used to live in a dream world when I was a kid, and then as soon as I learned, hey, people do this for a living, I was like, that's what I'm doing. So that's kind of, I've never wanted anything else. It's just always been acting, making films. That's always been my dream, and there's never been a backup plan.
Aha. Do you remember the very first production you were involved in?
Are we talking school plays?
Period. Like literally, first time that Chloe was
Yeah,
ever
I think the
present.
first time I was on stage, I was 5 or 6, and I think I was relegated to it was we were doing a play about the circus, and I was just someone in the band, and I wanted to be an acrobat because they got to dress up in the pretty clothes, but I sucked at cartwheels, so they wouldn't let me be one. So I had to just be a person in the band. But I loved it. I got a buzz from it, and it was great. I've always loved it.
I find it extremely exotic and interesting that you're from South Africa because I know you left there in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. So the culture here, the arts here, the everything here, I would ascertain is much different. So tell me a bit about life there versus life here.
Well, I'm from Zimbabwe, not South Africa. It's in Southern Africa, but it's a different country. It's
Gotcha.
so yeah, I mean, it is very different. I love Zimbabwe. I still do, even though I really can't go back there right now. It's a very beautiful country. The people are very welcoming, very friendly. Climatically, it is quite similar to Southern California. It is a very beautiful place. I used to love going to Lake Kariba, where you'd just be on a boat for a few days and there was just the bush around you and wild animals. It was quite incredible. Wenge Game Reserve, we used to go there. We used to stay in tree houses, which it was just gorgeous. There's something very special and unique about growing up there. And it is quite different to over here and to Australia and to most Western countries. And there is just a sense of, I think what I love about Zimbabwe, there is this sense of love and trust with each other. You kind of had to depend on each other because the police force is corrupt. If something were to happen to you at home, you couldn't call the police. You had to call your neighbor. So it was just that there was that thing there, which you don't have so much here, because it was just, so that's one of the things I miss a lot about being over there.
Well, and of course, I would have to ascertain. Now, did you move to California because it's similar to where you are from, or was this just a logistical thing
No,
for
no.
work?
I immigrated with my parents and we moved to Australia, and that's where my parents still are. And then I came over here because of the film industry.
Okay, I've gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if you had stayed in Australia, because I hear oftentimes I have interviewed Australians that have said that it's very rich and ripe as far as film over there. Are there a good number of opportunities in Australia these days?
I don't know about so much now. I mean, I've been living here the last few years, but
Right.
definitely, one of the reasons I moved here was because of that. Especially for women, there aren't that many opportunities, aren't that many good roles in films, and it is a very small industry.
Oh, you aren't lying there. Can you talk to me a little bit about the concrete catalyst behind A Stranger in My Homeland? Because I know that you shot that in 2005.
Well, we just immigrated. I was very passionate about what was happening in Zimbabwe. I was very angry because a lot of people didn't understand and were very ignorant and would say to me, "Oh, you're a rich white person. You don't know anything." But the whole thing is, what was happening in Zimbabwe wasn't just affecting white people. It was affecting everyone. Like the majority of it, Zimbabwean situation was political. And so the majority of Black people, they were miserable and unhappy. And so I interviewed these two amazing guys who were in the Zimbabwean army, who had to flee for their lives. They were living in Australia as refugees. And they basically were told, because in Zimbabwe, when you riot against the president, he sends out the army to shoot you. It's basically, if you protest, you're going to get shot. And that's why a lot of people were scared to do that. And so these two men were the only two in the army. He said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to shoot our own people. And they got arrested and they were tortured, electrocuted. They managed to escape because one good man snuck in and basically helped them escape. And so their story is really something else. And I wanted this to get made. I wanted the world to know what was happening. So we did it. And then, and I got it screened in a lot of festivals and I got the feedback, there's Zimbabweans who were kind of in the friends with Robert Mugabe, the leader, who saw it and weren't happy. And I just knew I couldn't go back because basically the law in Zimbabwe is if they suspect you of spreading anti-government information, they can take away your passport and throw you in jail for 20 years. There's no way I would ever risk that. It was just, but yeah, so it was very, it was a scary time, but I needed to do that. I needed people to know what was happening and how people were suffering and how big the picture was. It wasn't just a case of a Black versus white thing. It was a case of a corrupt dictator who was causing, millions of people to suffer.
Well, and the thing is too, one might call that some form of investigative journalism, because you're really cutting to the story as far as that goes. Were you able to actually screen it in Zimbabwe? I would imagine that's very dangerous, right?
No, I mean, if someone did it without my knowledge, then that's good for them. But I didn't. I know it's screened in South Africa and it's screened in a lot of countries. Yeah, would not screen it there. Yep, definitely not. It would just be, literally you would be taking your life in your hands if that happened. Yep.
Well, and the thing is too, how did you go about vetting? Like, how did you find someone who would actually be willing to do this? Because like the mass majority, I gather, wouldn't want any part of this.
Right. Well, it was interesting because these two refugees, Irvin and Down, Peter and Teeny, wonderful guys, it happened, they actually gave an interview on ABC TV there, speaking out about it. So I knew they were willing to talk. And then I managed through contact get hold of them, get their numbers, and they were very open to speaking out. But there were other people I spoke to who were living in Australia who I would say, yes, I want to talk to you. And they would set up the time to shoot their interviews, and they would cancel at the last minute and say, I can't do it. I'm too scared. Yeah, there were still people who were scared to speak out. It was a very sad situation.
Now, a lot of people that watch my show and or interviews happen to be filmmakers or want to be filmmakers. So I don't always have as many documentary filmmakers. So is there a bit of advice that you would give to somebody who's first going out into this field of documentary filmmaking? Any advice, any tidbits, anything to stay away from?
Well, you see, I'm not really a documentary filmmaker. This was the one I did because I was passionate about it.
Sure.
But I guess what I would do is I would say, yeah, go for it. Do a topic you're passionate about. And the one thing I learned was with documentaries, you tend to write the script afterwards. So you interview people, you get it, yeah, and then you work out which angle is this going to take. And that's kind of how, that's how it goes. So, you interview people, you get their stories. We also did reenactments because, I managed to get some live footage, but obviously things like, and the guys were amazing, like they reenacted their torture scenes, which must have been very hard for them. And they were amazing. So we did, and I found locations in West Australia that could have been Zimbabwe. And in fact, when I showed it to some Zimbabweans saw my film, they were like, "Oh, that's right. And you were my farmers." I was like, "No, actually, that's Australia." I would recommend doing reenactments if you can, getting live footage if you can, and just basically, interviewing people, and then afterwards you kind of have to go through all the footage and edit and work out what we're going to keep, what we're not going to keep, and then and then it's a case of the narration comes in after. So that's kind of all I know so far about documentaries. I mean, I may learn more when I make another one. But yeah.
Look at that. When I do another one. So does that mean that there will be another one down the road?
I mean, when a topic fascinates me enough, yes, I definitely want it. But it's not my main inspiration. My main inspiration is acting and writing.
Of
but
course.
yes,
I figured that. One of the things I thought about when I was looking and researching you was, wouldn't it be fascinating to have Chloe do her own story? It's like a short film, like cover yourself. I mean, have you thought about that? Because you're very interesting.
Well, thank you. I don't think I am, but that's very nice. Actually, there are bits of my own story in that documentary. I have include footage from as a kind of parallel, because like these guys who are the one, Peter and Tini, was from the Ndebele tribe, which is the other tribe in Zimbabwe. And a lot of people don't know, but there was a shocking genocide of the Ndebele in the early 1980s. And Peter talks about how he witnessed his best friend getting shot dead in front of him. And because back then, they didn't have the media that they have today, a lot of this, the world didn't know. I mean, they really didn't. So I kind of did a parallel to him because I was living in suburban Harare, where it was pretty safe. So I'd show snippets from my life and then snippets from, well, it wasn't really him, it was the reenactments of what he was going through. And my life is kind of covered in there, but it's not that exciting. Yeah. So I don't think I'd do a film on my own life. It's yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. Because to the layperson, because I hear that often, like people watch interviews and they'll say, boy, I wish I knew more about this actor or this actor. I think there is a general fascination by fans or the general public to know more about you, not just the actor side, but just you, the person.
Right.
Okay. I am all about shameless promotion as well. So let's talk a minute about Save Zimbabwe movement, because I know that you've been working with them or had worked with them before. So tell me a bit about that.
So basically, it's just, we're finding ways to help people in Zimbabwe. There's been this wonderful website that has developed in recent years called World Remit, where you can send money to people in Zimbabwe and other third world countries. And it's fantastic because for a while there, we were trying to get money to people and it was almost impossible to do because the banks there, if you transfer by bank, literally, if I were to send someone 100 US, they would end up getting 10 US. So this site, World Remit, and I fully want to promote it because it's it's a wonderful site. You can send money, it goes direct to the person, you pay the smallest fee, and they're good, they're reliable. The one time the money didn't go through and I went crazy, this was one of the first times I thought they were a scam site, but they had a number for me to call, someone picked up, they spoke to me, they said, oh no, the problem is there's a digit missing from the bank, from the number. We sorted it out. And they've been fantastic. They communicate with you. They're 100% legit and the money gets there. And that's the most important thing. That's what I recommend to anyone who wants to help anyone. And I think they can also help people in the Ukraine with that site, worldremit.com.
Oh, nice.
So it's a good way, if you have people, you have to know the people, you have to have so I help several families there. They can even do it by mobile banking. You just need to give their mobile number. It's just a wonderful way of doing things. Because when you send packages, I have a dear friend over there who has AIDS and I send him Tylenol, which helps a lot. Those packages take forever to get there. And then during lockdown, Zimbabwe was not receiving any packages from any country. So that was impossible to do.
I want to flip before we talk about you as the actor. I know that you've written a total of 9 different projects. And I myself as a writer obviously have a different process than you do. So as far as writing goes, we always talk a lot about writer's block. Does Chloe ever get writer's block? Have you ever gotten that before?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I know it's awful. Actually, someone told me the best way to fix writer's block is to write about something you want to write about at that time. So if you're trying to fix, say, the scene is just not coming to you and you just don't feel like writing it, write about something completely different, like that you want to write about. So if you're frustrated, express how you're feeling in a journal or something. And that I've tried that really works for me. With my screenplays, I find way I write is I write the scenes that come to me first. So it's kind of like it could be a scene that takes place at the end, in the middle, I write it. And then I write another scene that comes to me, and then another scene, and then I glue it all up. And I find that way really avoids writer's block. Don't sit and write, okay, this is the beginning. How do I write the first scene? Because that does, I mean, I don't know, maybe it works for some people, it doesn't work for me. I have to write the scenes that come to me, and then I match them all up.
Huh. So are you the midnight writer? Like some of us will go out in public and then we'll grab a napkin and we'll be like, write this down. Or you wake up and you're like, oh, I have a thought. Or does that never happen to you?
That has happened to me before. And it's also happened infuriatingly when I've had a thought. In fact, this happened last night. I had a thought. I said, oh, I'll remember it in the morning. And of course I woke up and I don't remember it. Yeah, no, I have my phone by my bed. So I send myself a text with the thought. That's normally how I do it. Yep.
I gotcha. And I have looked at you at social media, and I have to say, one of the things that I've noticed about Chloe is it's the constant look change. And that might be because you're an actor, or it might just be that you're Chloe, which we're about to find out, because I've seen different outfits, different hats. I've seen the cat a lot, especially the cat in front of the camera. I saw the Harley Quinn outfit, which I just thought was absolutely darling. I'm a huge Harley Quinn fan. I'm like, how awesome is that? So a lot of times actors will tell me that the reason they look so different all the time is it's occupational. So I'm going to ask you, is it really just because the actor side of things, or is Chloe really that ongoing like a chameleon?
I have like some days I just feel like wearing a different outfit. I have totally different styles. It's just totally, I mean, the Harley Quinn one was Purim, which is Jewish Halloween, as I explained to people.
Okay.
So that was Harley Quinn. And then I also did this year, I think I was Poison Ivy. I like to dress differently every day. I like to try a different look. It's just me. I don't think that's too much an acting thing. That's just me trying to be different and trying to, that's, and I did that even during lockdown, even though I wasn't going to be seeing anyone, that I dressed up, that I put on makeup. That was just my way of staying sane, because I thought if I don't do this, I'm just going to stay in bed all day.
Oh, you bet. You gotcha. Yeah. Now, I've lived with an actor, so I know that he had probably 6 or 7 personalities. And they would come out at random times, and I'd be like, you'd look over and all of a sudden they're like acting out a scene, or like they're talking like Yoda. And I'm like, yes. Okay, so would it be fair to say that the majority of actors, including yourself, is it really true that there's a few different people up in that head? That seems to be the norm.
We all have basic characters that we turn to. I do the same thing, like, especially if I'm preparing for an audition or something, I'll be doing the different accents and stuff. You know, my last character was Russian. I practiced Russian accent, and and so I would be like practicing that at all times. I mean, and that's what makes being an actor exciting and interesting, is that you kind of don't have to choose, you know, you kind of get a chance to be everything.
That poses a good point, because there's been a lockdown for so long. I know that there were numerous times where actors are doing the Zoom audition thing, et cetera, and trying to reinvent themselves. So for you personally, was there one thing that you have learned to do or have tried to acclimate in a regular routine audition wise to make yourself stand out even more? Because on a Zoom, it's really hard to see all of you. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I never did Zoom auditions. Okay. You know, there's an audition place I go to, which were open during lockdown. You had to keep your mask on, and it was just one other person. So I didn't have to worry about that because I was able to do the full body thing. But yeah, that's a good thing to think about if it ever happens. I don't know, Zoom. Yeah, it would be quite challenging to have to.
Wow. You know, I can't believe that, because like everybody has been saying to me, they're like, oh, they're having a Zoom again, or we're having to do this. And you feel badly for actors, because you're like, you really aren't getting the full effect of you, because you can't really see all of you. You know, there's only so much. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I found out that I was interviewing you, and your publicist said, yeah, you know, she was on this little tiny show. And I say little because everyone's heard of the Righteous Gemstones. So a couple different questions there. Tell everyone who you play on that show. And then second of all, how arduous was the process in terms of actually getting a role on the show?
I play Gloria Freeman, who's married to baby Billy Freeman, played by Walton Goggins. I'm his 4th wife. I just want to correct that, because there's some articles that say I'm the 2nd, and it's like, no, I'm the 4th trophy bride.
I knew that.
No, that was actually my easiest audition. It was just like, it was meant to be. So I did the audition, shot it on, well, you see, I tell people this. So I got the part because I lied. I told them I could drive a tractor, and I can't. We see, because the scene at the birthday party when Walton's driving in on the lawnmower, that was supposed to be me driving a tractor. So the audition that we had to shoot, the first one was, we sent it and taped, and we had to say our name, our height, who our agent was, and whether we could drive a tractor. So I gave the story. Yes, my uncle on his farm often let me drive his tractor. Complete nonsense. I think I sat on a tractor once when I was in Africa. But anyone who knows anything about actors knows that they will say anything to get a role.
Absolutely.
So of course I sent that in on the Sunday. On the Tuesday, I got word I got the part. So of course I'm on YouTube then, like, how do you drive a tractor? And I'm freaking out. And I think they're gonna fire me. And then as soon as I turn up on set that day, there's Walton, and they're like, yeah, no, we've changed it, Chloe. You're gonna be on the back. And I was like, oh, thank God. That was like my best get out of jail free card. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh. I know this because I imagine if I showed up and I get to interview people that are on TV and in film, and it's intimidating even when I'm not like standing next to him, etc. So you've had the good fortune of not only standing next to him, but be sitting next to him, etc., and be in his space. So tell me a bit about the man himself, because you got to work with Walton, which not most of us do. So what is, I don't want to say what's the experience like, but more importantly, what's one thing that people should know about him?
Oh, he's the most wonderful, caring person. Like, he takes time to talk to you. He was so sweet with Jeremy, who plays our son. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man. Phenomenal actor, really phenomenal. Yeah.
And that's so sweet, actually. I had done a write-up about him not so long ago, and it got to when he did the unicorn, actually. And so I
Yes.
interviewed his creator, the writer that was there. And so, of course, he would just rave and rave and rave about him. And the funny part is if anyone has watched the show, yeah, you know that he's not a very nice guy. I was like, oh
I
my
know.
God, he's such a rascal. He's
He's
just so
horrible.
mean.
And he was so sweet when we shot our first scene together, which was the restaurant scene when he
Right.
told his sister he sold the land. He was so sweet to me. Like, he kept apologizing and he said, and I was like, it's okay. I know you're in character. You don't need to apologize.
Look
But
at
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting show because the writer of the show is just hilarious. I mean,
Oh.
it's just, oh my gosh. And having John Goodman in there. And then I know the lady who plays Annabella.
Amy
And why
Lee?
is it the country singer? Why can't I remember?
Amy Lee, Jennifer Nettles. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. And she just, the first time she belted out that song with Walton, I was like, oh my God, first of all, Walton sings. I'm like, what the hell? I'm
Oh, yeah,
like, I didn't know that.
No, he's amazing. Yeah, no, and she's wonderful too. Yeah, and that song, I get it in my head. It doesn't go away. I love it.
Oh my God, right? So I'm like, okay, so definitely a recommendation for those folks that haven't seen it before. You should watch it, not just because Chloe is on, but because they really have assembled a great cast. I'm a huge fan of story writing that's good and funny. And I love that they use so many kids, and I love the backstory behind it. It's just absolutely awesome. I mean, and it's on 3 seasons now, right? So far? Because I know you haven't been on every season, correct?
Yes, well, they're about to start. I was season 1, season 2, and they're about to start shooting season 3. Yep.
How intimidating is that for you when you're walking on a set with just so many different actors at so many different places in their career? You know what I mean? I imagine that could be not only intimidating, but somewhat inspirational for you.
It was incredible. Like, my first day there, I mean, like, I didn't know John Goodman was in it, and I saw him and I was like, oh my God. And he actually came over to me and introduced himself and was like, hi, I'm John. It was so sweet. I'll share a funny story with you. So my first day on set, I was a little intimidated. I couldn't believe I had this part. Normally you get a part after 3 callbacks. I didn't have 1 callback and I got the part. So I'm kind of thinking, part of me is thinking, this isn't quite real. I haven't really got this. So we shot 1 take of us sitting down, and then, next thing is we're told to go stand, and then other people come in and take up our seats. And I'm thinking, I didn't actually get this part. They're now trying out someone else, because I'd never been on a production of that size before.
Right.
And I didn't understand the concept. And suddenly I realized, and I looked and I saw Walton was also standing up. So I thought, oh, and then I realized those are the stand-ins. It was like, okay. And then, because almost on the little productions that I've done, we'd get crew to stand in, it was just,
Sure.
So then the other thing that happened was, so David Gordon Green, who was directing, wanted to do a take of me getting up from the table and Walton and I sharing a look. He said to me, go stand underneath that pot plant there. So I had this big 80s hair, all this gel on it. And so we did the shot. I go stand underneath the pot plant. He calls cut, and I can't move. My hair had stuck to the bottom of the pot plant.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, I'm freaking out because this is my first day on this massive set with these wonderful people, and I just don't know what to do.
Oh, right.
And eventually I call one of the crew members. I was like, hi, can you help me, please?
Oh my God. The miracle of acting in TV sets. It's so fascinating, isn't it? I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I give you a lot of props. I mean, I've tried to act a few times. I have acted a few times, but I feel like oftentimes I need to say to people, like in your particular case, I think the general mass population, when they thinks about someone like yourself doing television or film, they think you're on set and you're doing stuff all the time and it's so glamorous. But is it though? Meaning, is there the sit, get up, wait,
Oh
sit,
yeah, I
get up,
mean,
wait?
there's a lot of sitting around, but it's a lot. It was so much fun on that set. It was like, the cast are fun, the crew are fun. I made so many great friends. Yeah, you do spend a lot of time waiting around, but that's film for you. Every film, actually, there's always that.
There'll be tons and tons of filmmakers and directors and producers watching this. So, why is Chloe great for casting?
Well, I think I'm great for casting because there's nothing I won't do. Well, short of pornography, I won't do that. But other than
Okay.
that, I will go for any role I'm put up for, and I've had people put me up for evil, for good, for I mean, Gloria, who's a bit of a trophy bride, for everything. I'm not the actor who goes, oh, I don't do that. When I'm on a job, I'm there 100%, and I'm not a
Okay.
diva. And
Okay.
it's just that those are the things which I can say about myself, which are true. And I think it's important for actors to do whatever they're asked to do whatever role, the agent puts them up for. If someone sees them as being right for something, do it. It's
Oh, you betcha. I almost thought to myself today that you might be, I don't know if you've done this, but have you considered teaching actors? Because that seems something you're natural for.
No, I've never actually taught acting as such. Yeah, I mean, it would be fun. I've on my various day jobs, I've had teaching ESL, English as a second language, and that, but I've never really taught acting. But yeah, it would be fun. It would be a lot of fun.
There you go. Just another thought. We want to
Mm.
talk about introducing Jodea because it's won multiple awards and I see it all over the place. And I'm like, I'm even excited about this. So give me a short synopsis of what introducing Jodea is.
Right. So introducing Jodea is a story about a very untalented actress who I play, whose fortunes change when a world famous director drives into the back of her car. And he gives her a check for the damage, spells her name wrong. She takes into his agent's office after him saying, you spelled my name wrong. Don't worry about the damage to my car. Just put me in your film. And he asks her to audition then and there, and she's terrible. And then the agent makes a bet with him saying, look, if you get a performance out of that girl within a week, I'll get you the star who the director's been trying to get for ages. So like
Mhm.
it's a bet romance. Obviously he teaches her to act, and there's a romance develops out of it. So it's a funny feel good movie. That's how I
Oh,
could best describe it. Yep.
and where did this premiere?
We had our premiere in the Lemley theaters, and then it's now on platforms everywhere: Amazon, iTunes, basically everything, Google Play. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So the average layperson can watch this, including
Oh yeah,
myself.
yeah, 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 for sure. Yep. Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome. So we can check that out. Now, are you allowed to say what you're currently working on?
Well, I just finished the pilot. It was a pilot I wrote and acted in. We shot
Okay.
it earlier this year, and it's kind of premise a bit like the Gemstones, and then this time it's about corrupt religious Jews who will. It's about the Jewish single scene, and they will do anything to get married, and it's a very much yeah, it's the sort of the doco comedy style, a bit like Modern Family. So
Okay.
we shot that. It's still being edited. Going to get it out there in the next few weeks, and yeah, that's my latest one.
Ah, look at that. I don't want to forget to ask this because I know you're also a producer. I know the two projects you've directed, you've produced 7 projects. Tell me a bit about on the production side of things. Like I'm looking at you and I'm thinking actor, writer,
Mm.
director, producer. Where does the producer side fit in? Is there a hierarchy here of what you
I
consider
mean,
important?
I'll be honest, I hate producing. I only do it with my own projects because I have to, but even
Okay.
then, I take a backward role and I let someone else who knows more about it take over. Yeah, producing is kind of it's the most tedious because it's very everything's on you. You've got to get it up, and you've also got to play the bad guy the whole time. You've got to say, no, 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 you can't spend money on that. We don't have it in the budget. So I usually prefer someone else to take over that part of it. It's not what I do natural. I'm the creative person, but I do kind of need to produce all my projects. I need to have that say in it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Someone had asked me to ask you this question because you've got experience in all these realms. Money is always a problem, and for everyone, I mean, collectively, even Mr. De Niro has said, hey, sometimes I can't get something financed. Do you have a go-to as far as have you found something systematically over and over that works for you as far as financing?
I mean, I'm someone I don't wait for people to finance my projects. Like with Jodea, we went through 3 different directors. We
Oh,
were going to
wow.
do it on a much higher budget. We just said, look, let's slash the budget and let's go. And so I went with John, who's one of my best friends, who I knew would do a brilliant job. And we shot it on 30K. I find that with money, I believe you can do something on low budget really well. And John is low budget pro director. He can take a project of 100K and make it look like 10 million. So,
wow.
so that was why I wanted him to do that. I find with me is if I can find the first lot of money myself, I usually find that once people see it's happening, it's going to happen, then people will come forward and put in some. But it's very hard to get that initial funding is something that's really hard. And so that's something which I like if I come up with the first 10K myself, and then someone else comes on board and says, okay, well, look, you're doing that. We started shooting, that's how I find is the best way to do it.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, because oftentimes directors will say, oh, I don't want to approach this person. So Chloe, I'm assuming, would do independent film, because I know there's a lot of directors that hesitate and say, oh, they've done TV or they've done this and they're unattainable. I want to take that myth away. You are attainable, are you not?
Very much so. Yes. No, of course
Okay.
I do independent. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I'm just making sure on that. Okay. Now
Someone
I want to read off a couple places where you can find Chloe, because she is on social media. For one, she's on Facebook, her Instagram, which is her name, of course. And again, it's Chloe, which is CHLOE, Tracois, which is TRAICOS, and then it's _official on Instagram. She's obviously got an IMDb as well as YouTube. Any other places where people can find you?
No, Facebook, Chloe Tracois, Instagram are my two main ones.
Okay.
Yep.
And no website right now, right? Because I had looked, but I didn't see it.
No website. And then right now, and then I suggest have them look up Introducing Jodea, which is on all platforms. But if they want to watch it for free, you can see it on Tubi TV. It's on Amazon Prime. So and iTunes, but I know not everyone has iTunes. So
Sure.
yeah.
Oh, you betcha. And of course, obviously, The Righteous Gemstones is on HBO Max. Of course, you can see all of the last, I believe, most of season 1 and all of season 2 are on HBO Max right now. Chloe, this is what I will say to you. I said it earlier on. She's like a bohemian artist to me. I'm like, there's certain actors that just embody art, and you are one of them. You just are very refreshing, free-spirited looking, very entertaining to watch, very engaging, and more importantly, much nicer and much more approachable, because I was very nervous to interview Chloe. So this has been
that's sweet. I don't know why, but thank you so much.
It's been a wonderful experience.